G'day everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be installing the Koni yellows on the rear of my GD WRX. Now, why did I choose these? Well, first of all, the Koni is a great product. If you value ride quality and performance, these are absolutely fantastic. They're damper adjustable, however, they are inserts, and this is what the video is going to show. It's going to show you how I installed them, and especially on the rear of my car, because on the rears, you need to cut them quite low on the spring perch here. So it's quite hard to get to this side. So unfortunately, the Koni yellows are not like these struts. I ran these in my car for 10 years and about 80,000 kilometers, or close to 100,000 kilometers actually. But they did start to knock, and you know, they're worn out. It's time to replace them. Tokico don't make them anymore, so these damper adjustable shocks are not available off the shelf. Your other solution is KYB AGX. Now, I don't recommend those if you are lowering your car. I'm running H&R springs, and there is a bit of a drop, especially on the rear of the vehicle. So in the video, I'm going to show you how to gut your strut, cut your strut, so you can put in your strut insert on the rear of your 2000 to 2007 WRX Impreza. Okay, let's get down to the grease pit, the garage. Alright, so let's have a look at this kit here. So this is the Koni insert. Okay, this one is the 8611440 Sport, which I'm installing here. Okay, you got your adjustment thing. When you adjust this while it's out, you do have to hold the shaft or it will spin. So this is all the way soft, and that's how you probably want to install these. Yeah. This comes with some instructions, but you're watching this video, you probably don't need that. And it comes with some torque specs here. You've got your adjuster. You've got a collar for a GC8 for a classic. You don't need that. You've got the washer, which goes at the bottom of the strut. You've got this this spiky washer, which you put so to keep it down. And then you've got the hex key bolt, which is quite a large hex key, which goes at the bottom of your strut. Okay, it's time now to jack up this car, take off the wheels, take out the rear struts. If you haven't done this before, keep watching. If you're familiar with it, you can skip forward to the 14-minute mark, which goes through the cut-a-strut process, gutting the strut, putting it in a cartridge. But if you haven't done it before, keep watching, and we're going to take out the struts of this Bugeye. Take the brake line off this strut. Now, in these rear struts, you can see this right here, and for this you can just use a flathead screwdriver to pull it out. If I remember how it goes, basically pushes out, and to push it out, yeah, you might need a screwdriver and a rubber mallet. There it goes, and there it is. So you can kind of see how that holds on there. So once you've done that, you can loosen that, and that will remove the brake line from the strut. Put this in a safe place where you're not going to lose it. Okay, so the main strut bolts are 19mm. I've also got a 19mm spanner here, so I can try to crack these. So put this one over here. And I've got the brake bar, so hopefully I can break, well, not break, but undo the bolt. So it always takes a bit of energy to do these, and you'll find that this one is going to try to spin against you. So I'm just going to put it here. Okay, push on it, and try to get this undone. And these can be hard. If you cannot get this undone, then put a pipe over this to get even more leverage. But I'm just going to try to do it as is. Now, safety is important, but sometimes you just need to get over it, and I'll put my leg here and then I'll push this down to try to crack it. Alright. Whew. It does take a bit of work. Alright. I'll try to do it from this angle, or maybe a slightly higher angle. And just try to pull down. So, yeah. And there we go. Yeah. Alright. Now, I recommend wearing shoes for this. Don't be like me and do this just barefoot. But it is, in American terms, about 90 degrees out there. And it's a pretty hot day. Yeah. So once you get this undone, you can use a rattle gun to get it open, like I'm going to do, or just keep spannering, get a ratchet, and you should get it off in no time. Remember, you need two 19 mils for this. Okay, so you've got the nut and bolt combo, the bolt and the nut on this side. So I'm just going to cheat this out. There we go. Nice and easy, that's what it looks like. Keep these together so you don't lose them. I always put everything down on the jack stand here. Lug nuts, brake clip, or brake line clip, and now these. Okay, so now to crack the bottom one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the Fred Flintstone. Put my foot up there, and then crack the one on the right. Yep. Okay. Alright, so if I put my foot there on this left, where this left hand is, it'll just give me a bit of leverage while I try to undo this. Now, these are usually done up pretty tight. I can't remember the torque specs, but I'll tell you that later when we're going to put it back together. Okay, I'm going to orient this breaker bar so I can crack it open. I think that's the best it's going to be. So again, put my foot up there. Don't recommend this. Oh, yes. Ah. Oh. Whew. And you can see, it's coming apart now. Alright, again, I'll get the rattle gun on it. I know this is cheating, not everyone's got a rattle gun. This one's a pretty cheap battery powered one that I bought, and it doesn't even have that much torque. Sometimes it struggles to take off tight wheel nuts, but it's good enough for this, and it saves you a little bit of time. Yep. And try to push this back in so I can get the rattle gun out, as it is hitting on the car body there. And this also should pull out depending on the hub, because the hub is going to be loose now. Can be a little bit hard to get it all going, but should be able to get it done. If you can't get this out, you can put a screwdriver in the other end, and you can get your mallet and you can pull it out. But don't think I need to do that. Maybe I'll just give it a bit of a go. Should be able to pull out. Yep. Okay, and second bolt and nut combo out. Don't forget. Yep, and when you've taken off the bits, make sure you put them all in the right place. Don't lose them. So those are the wheel nuts, the strut, bolt and nut, and there is the brake line clip. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to remove the rear seats. Okay, so if you have a look here, here is the rear WRX seat. If you have a look here, there's a bolt there, and there's a bolt exactly on the other side. So take out those two bolts, they're 12 mils. Okay, that's the first step so that you can access your strut towers. Okay, put that seat somewhere safe so it doesn't get dirty, obviously, and then we take out the bolts here. So there's one in the corner over there, there are two down the bottom in the middle, and there'll be one on the right which you can see reasonably clearly there. Okay guys, here's the next part. So put a blanket down because there's sharp stuff that's down here. You're not meant to stand here without the bottom seat being there. Okay, you've got to open this up, that's the trick. Okay, and then there's hooks that are holding this. You've unbolted it, so you just push it up both sides. Yeah. And hopefully one side, the other side, and it comes loose. The seat belts will be in your way, especially the middle one, so make sure you got that. Once you pull this out, you can put this back in. Okay, and this is a big piece. Don't just chuck it in the dirt, it'll look like shit. Put it somewhere where it won't get damaged. While you're pulling it out, make sure you don't damage your car and your body, because there's these metal bits at the bottom that were holding the bolts, and that stuff bugger up your paint job if you're not careful. So always be careful, don't make cosmetic damage on the vehicle, or it's just going to look more like a banger than it may or may not already be. Alright, okay, now you can see the rear strut top mounts. Okay, these are the tools you need. So 12 mil all around. Okay, get into there however you can. It can be a little bit tight, especially for this rear one. With the rear one, you've got the seat belt right above it, so that one can be a bit tricky to get to. This one close, this is all right. The one at the back isn't too bad. Once you remove these top nuts, okay, you should be able to pull out the shock. So just grab the shaft, grab the springs with the other hand, and just pull it out. And there you go, there's no more strut in this hole. Once you take them out, okay, you need to loosen this top nut. Now you can either hit it with a gun, okay, I think it's a 17 for the factory one, or you just get a mate to push it down, okay, and you undo that. You might need the Allen key because it might be a little hard to do, but there's not a lot of tension in these rear ones. It's mainly the front ones that you need spring compressors for, so you may not need spring compressors. I've seen people do them with them and without them. Yep.
More?
Just take it off. Take the gun off and then take it off. Just put the gun on the ground.
Round?
Yep.
And what do you want?
And then take that nut.
Ah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry?
You're upstairs. For
It's
now.
finished?
For now. Okay. I mean, you can see pulverized bump stock. Look at that. Okay, now it's time for the cut-a-strut process. So we're drilling a hole in the bottom of the factory strut. They've shown this in the Koni video. They put it in a vise and they drilled it out that way. The way I did it is I got a friend to actually stand on the strut, and then I drilled it out with a small drill bit. You need about a 3 or a 4 mil drill bit there. Make sure that you got a bucket to get out all of the gunk, and what you do, just like this guy in the video, is you pump it out and pump out all of the oil which is in the strut. Okay, now in this video they measure it, they use a hacksaw. Now I did not use a hacksaw. If you've only got a hacksaw, I guess you got to do that. So you can pull out this cartridge keep in mind measuring it. So it needs to be 40 mils from the top of the black tube, okay, rather than the top cap. So you can't really see it too well in this picture, but it sits pretty low in the spring perch. Okay, now I got a friend with an angle grinder who helped me angle grind it, and that's what we're going to look at here. Okay, now I cut off the cap first, okay, because the angle grinder can't get in everywhere. Okay, the hacksaw can get in a little bit better, but if you take the cap off, then you can take the original cartridge out, and that's what we're doing here. Should be coming out soon. It's about 2 mil thick, this tube. Okay, there it is out, and this lets us more easily cut it at the right height. Okay, and it's pretty low on the spring perch, especially on that far end from what we can see in the video. So in this video we did have to finish it off with a hacksaw. I guess it's just the nature of the beast. After that, what you do is make sure you file it down, make it nice and neat, and enlarge the hole at the bottom of the strut. Okay, so you can see here it's coming off, but not completely. We still need to use the hacksaw to get the bit where the spring perch is quite high. There it is. Okay, and then here we're using a Dremel to enlarge the hole, or you can use a 13 or 14 mil or a 1/2 inch drill bit to do that. Okay, here we are smoothing out the surface. Okay, make sure there's not any burrs. You can use a file for this. Okay, and we're test fitting the Koni insert to make sure that you can get the bolt in the bottom there. Okay, I put a bit of a Rust-Oleum paint primer combo on the bits that were cut off, and the bits that got damaged. You know, I'm not too worried about corrosion, but if you are, you definitely want to be making sure that you do paint these. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our insert, and we're going to insert the insert. As you do. Okay, so the insert should go in nice and smoothly like that. Okay, you can see those. If it's not hitting those, you can see a bit of paint coming off. If it's not hitting these, well, you haven't cut it lower enough, and you need to fashion it a little bit more. Okay, you can see down the bottom, doesn't look too bad. That was a 1/2 inch hole. That was maybe made a little bit wider so that you can get your bolt down the bottom. Looking at the instructions here, when you put that bolt in, don't forget the 2 washers, the larger conical washer followed by the spiky washer, and tighten it up with the hex key. Yeah, you can see it's well seated. Also note how the spring perch sits higher, so when you're cutting it, make sure you don't cut it too high, otherwise it's not going to fit. You're not going to get these bits coming in here as well. Okay, so that's together. I'll maybe give it one more. I'm being lazy here. I'm not using a torque wrench, but just tighten it as much as you can, and not too much. If you do want to follow the instructions, remember 75 Newton meters, 55 foot-pounds. You don't need oodles and oodles. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to put on our Scooby spacer. Okay, now these Scooby spacers, you can get these online. So I think they're called 921 Scooby spacers. I've put these on mine using the 03 top hats. Apparently it's to stop noise and knocks. I'm going to reuse it. I'm going to hope I don't have any knocks, because this is the reason I'm doing this. I've got knocky struts, and I'm sick of them. Okay, so you got that. The next thing is you're going to put on a bump stop. So I'm going to get a bump stop, and you can go in here. Okay, now with these Konis, you want to pull them out. Easy does it. Because when you install the spring, you're going to need it. Yeah. Okay. Also, you got your rubber boot. Okay, this is something that I don't want you to forget. Not all cars use these, the Subarus use these, so a bit of rubber usually helps so it's not making too much noise. Okay, put this in. Pretty self-explanatory, don't need to explain how to put this on. Then you're going to put on your dust boot and your top hat. This top hat looks alright. The way that this one is done, so when the strut goes in, this one should be facing forward. Okay, just like the car, it's facing forward, that should be facing forward. So just put that on with the spring, you get a friend to push it down, and then you can get the 19mm nut on that. Okay, one more time. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, here is the next unenviable job. Okay, you need two people. You need someone inside doing the bolts, the nuts up here, and then one person to put the strut in. So hold the springs in one hand, the strut bottom in the other. Okay, and let's get this thing moving. Oh, it can be a little bit annoying and heavy. Got my wife helping me here. And down. Okay, and back to the top nuts. Yeah, so you're gonna have to tighten these again. All right, just like you did before. Your partner can go away now, they don't need to keep helping you. Just takes a little bit of time to do these. You can see that I've done this one already. Okay, it's going back together with the Koni yellow there. Perfect. So one thing I did with these ones is I just put a little bit of paint on here so you can see where the mark is, yeah, and where the strut's top orientation should be. Now you don't need to do that. That was just something I did with a little bit of Citadel color. Okay, so now that we got that strut in, I was actually showing the other side where I put it in, but anyway, this one's easy to film. There's not much space around there in my little garage. So you got to get these nuts and these nuts and bolts in. So this one goes in here, right through here. You need to adjust this to get it there. Sometimes you got to push the shock up. Now, you might need a little bit of a partner, okay? Your partner can push down on this so you can get it in. Try to get this one here, the bottom one first, and then do the top one. Some people have undone their sway bars. I didn't undo my sway bar. I think I did it in the past, so it's going to be interesting doing this, but should be all right. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of frustration. But once you get these in, then you can tighten them up to the correct specs. They do take a lot of torque, so use a torque wrench, and that's the next step that I'll show you. Okay, if you've done those strut bolts, they should be in. Just put them in reasonably tight, and then we're going to torque them up. Make sure you've done the brake line here, which I showed at the beginning of the video. Basically slip in the line and then put in the clip and just hammer it in with a mallet. Bob's your uncle. Okay, now with these ones you need a lot of torque. You need 162 Newton meters for each one. Okay, so what you do is you're going to need an open-ended spanner, especially for the bottom one here. Okay, and when I told you to reinstall it, I actually reinstalled the top first, so whichever one's easier. It's probably the top that comes out second, so the top goes in first. Okay, so get the torque wrench on it, and then give it a nice, as much energy as you can. Come on! And it should click out when I get to the torque. Oh, yes. Okay. These need to be really tight. It's a pain in the ass, but eventually you're gonna get there. Trust me. Okay, guys. So by this stage, you should have put on your struts. These should be tight and torqued up. The bottom nuts should be torqued up. Your brake line should be back on. You should be putting your wheels back on, and you should be putting the car back on the ground. Okay, tighten those lug nuts once it's on the ground. And this is the final step. Yay, we're at the end. So now that the car's on the ground, you can tighten these up to the correct spec. Now, this was 41 foot-pounds. So put this on here and just tighten it off. There we go. I think my wife and I tightened it pretty well before we put in, but that's pretty much it. So the next thing is put the seats back in, or actually don't forget your Koni adjuster. Let me get one of those. Okay, here's the Koni adjuster. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So start with fully soft. Usually if you've got some, you know, progressive lowering springs like myself with the H&R springs, I turn this about 3/4 of a turn. So start soft, work your way up. If you've got a rattle gun, it's easy to take these seats off. If not, it's more difficult. So, but you need to take it off to adjust these bad boys. So that's pretty much it. It's still bloody hot and humid here in Brisbane, Australia. So it's time for me to take a well-earned break. Well, I hope you liked the video, guys. In this video series, I'm going to just try to look at things that I'm doing on the car, things that I'm replacing since it's 22 years old now. If you've got any questions or anything, put them down in the comments. I'll be interested to hear what you got to say, and I'll see you in the next video.